Welcome to Tales About the Table, where we explore the stories, challenges, and creative chaos of TTRPGs. But mostly D&D. I'm Elijah.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Josiah. Together, we discuss the art of DMing, character building, and making unforgettable moments at the table.
Each episode, we break down a different aspect of tabletop gaming, sharing our experiences, lessons learned, and maybe a few funny failures along the way. Whether you're a seasoned DM or you're just rolling your first set of dice, there's always more to learn about collaborative storytelling.
Sometimes we talk about how to play TTRPGs, the rules, the setup, and everything in between.
Sometimes we talk about how to be better people and communicators, and therefore, better players.
And sometimes we talk about our own misadventures and the lessons that we've learned from the worlds we've created.
But most importantly, we love telling great stories together.
So pull up a chair and join us as we share another of our many tales about the table. Hello, and welcome back to Tales Improvised About the Table. Somebody else take away the intro.
All right. This is the show that we run where we talk about D&D a lot. We love it. We have a ton of fun. We play this game and we like to talk about it. So we're going to jump into that. This is an episode that we don't have planned. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We have no idea what we're going to do. We each of us have some questions that we've been thinking about, and we're just gonna fire them off at each other and just see where it goes from there. So we'll see where this goes. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. I'm here with Jack and Elijah. I'm Josiah. Just wanted to get our names out of the way in case you hadn't gotten that before.
Rough start.
No, this is a great start.
But
This is improvised. This is how we do things.
this is improvised.
sometimes.
I guess we have to keep it.
This is
We
our
have to.
season finale. This is
Yeah.
the last episode of season 1.
We didn't have to
Thanks
start
for
it like
sticking
this.
around with us this
Oh,
long. It's
yeah.
been super fun. But I'm gonna get right into our questions. So this is a little hot potato. I'm tossing your way. Here you go, guys. You're ready for this.
Okay.
You
Okay.
ever had an intro that was just a natural one on a performance check? Because I think that's what today
I don't know what-
was,
I don't know
and
what
Here's
you
what
mean
I'll
for.
say. You know, we'll edit a part that like tells you to skip to a certain timestamp if
Oof,
you don't
yeah.
want to hear our idiocy.
No, we're definitely
No,
not
that's
going to do that.
Terrible. Oh gosh.
1 minute,
anyways.
48 seconds. You're welcome.
Gosh. Oh man. Well, it depends on if we run the intro too. Okay, here we go. All right. How do you feel about dating or relationships at your table? I am asking this question in two regards, both dating between players and also romantic relationships between characters within your campaigns. I am not, in fact, talking about your players being romantically interested in characters at the table, as I think that's just going to happen anyways. I've yet to play a character that I wasn't romantically interested in. So
That's a wild setup to that
Okay.
question.
it's
Uh,
also not true. Anyways, okay, so we're jumping
Yeah.
into this. What
Great.
are the challenges to that? What are the benefits? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah.
I will say, so maybe even a clarifying question.
Yep.
I play D&D with my wife sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that count? Is that within the scope of the question you're asking? Or are you specifically asking about dating?
I do. I think we can definitely talk about it in both ways. I think it's a good distinction, and I do think there is a distinction between
Yeah.
a marriage relationship and a dating
Or
relationship.
even
Because
just
with a marriage
committed
relationship,
you know,
yeah,
like
committed relationships are
versus-
just going to stand a little bit
somebody maybe
more.
starting to date at the table.
right.
Or yeah, because I do think that's different. Like, I guess in my head, if I'm coming in, you know, and you hear horror stories all the time about like, oh my gosh, the DM likes one of the players at the table and things get either creepy or
Yeah.
really into favoritism or stuff like that. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's weird. And I do know, like, when I DM, when my wife is playing, I subtly, not so subtly, try to make light at times of like, oh yeah, well, she's my favorite person at the table, so I guess I'm gonna have to go with whatever she said, like. And but I also am well aware as I make those jokes of like, hey, like there's a social contract again, talking about that at this table. And yes, she's my wife. Yes, we all know that outside of this game, she's the most important person to me. She's the person I live with and, care for and spend my life with. But at the same time, like within this game, I am both her husband and the DM, the arbitrator of this game. And so there's this place where it's like, hey, I have to be impartial. Just like if my
Yeah.
wife was playing a sport and I'm the referee, it would be wrong, even though she's really important to me, to show favoritism to her. Because within that social context, we've agreed that the referee is going to be unbiased and impartial. So I think that's, especially from a DM perspective,
Yeah.
that is where
Yeah.
I'm kind of coming from, of like, yeah, okay, I can make light of it, but like, I am trying to be impartial. Like, I'm not going to give her extra things. I'm not going to fudge roles for her or, try and give her better story beats than others. It's like those things are wrong, in my opinion. That's showing favoritism where the social contract said you wouldn't. So.
Yeah. I do think that the DM player interaction is very, very different.
Yeah.
Especially like for like a player to player, not character to character relationship.
Right.
Because if you have a romantic interest in someone at a D&D table as a player, we're not talking like, oh yeah, our characters are dating,
Right.
then if like I think there has to be a lot of emotional intelligence for you to be like, oh, they're role playing a character and like that character is not being
Yeah.
nice to me, right? That and that is hard to do sometimes. And I think that a lot of times people will naturally not do that because it's like, hey, this, like Jack said, that's his wife. Like he once the game's over, he still hangs out with her, not the rest of us. And so I think there is a really important aspect of like recognizing the balance between, hey, this is a game and this is what I'm doing in the game versus, hey, we're dating and I care about you this way. And so I have DM'd with a lot of player to player relationships at my tables. And that has been challenging. Couple of breakups have definitely happened, and it has shifted the direction of the table. And people have left, and people have told me that D&D is a horrible game because that happened at the table. And it's like, oh, well, and I think that there is a place where, yes, obviously I don't want to like cut my friends out because it's like, oh, well, you're dating, you can't play D&D, I'm gatekeeping this from you. But there is, I think there's a place to have a really healthy conversation about, hey, I want this to be a safe space, and relationships often have conflict, right? That is like the nature of the social contract of having a relationship with someone, is that you may run into conflict. Believe it or not, me, Jack, and Josiah do not always agree on the things as we come into contact with one another, and we talk about things that we believe and things that are going on.
Yeah.
That's why we have a podcast. In some regards, that like it is something that we can bounce ideas off and come to different conclusions. But I think that because of the inherent risk of conflict in relationships, it is imperative to have those conversations and looking at the social impact of, hey, what happens if this player relationship, pokes its way into the D&D table? As far as character relationships, very recently saw a clip with Brendan Lee Mulligan talking about this, which he said something very profound, which is you should never flirt with someone that doesn't have the freedom to leave. And I was like, oh, that's like a great concept of like, hey, if you're uncomfortable as a character, or as a player that like with a character romance, you can't just, well, my character leaves because you're all still sitting at the table. It is fiction. Um, and so I loved that, like looking at that wrinkle and that like difficulty that is added to, oh, it takes more than just thinking about, oh, I want to have a character relationship in this campaign, but it is also like, hey, we want everyone to be comfortable in this situation as well. And like recognizing the interplay between I'm at a table playing a game with my friends and I'm role playing in a completely or different world that I'm fully immersed in and can imagine myself walking away. Um, those
Yeah.
are two different things.
Yeah. Can I hop in there real quick? So you said specifically, I liked that quote from Brennan Lee Mulligan, but I would even say, like, maybe even more particular, like, I do think there is a place where, and I've found this even when I was just, dating or interested in girls or talking to people, um, it is really kind and gentlemanly or gentlewomanly to give people outs, to let them walk away with respect and their head held high, instead of winning the situation, especially if feelings are involved or stuff like that. And I think that's a good practice in D&D where you can't walk away from the table like you're saying, to give people a way that they get to walk away with their head held high. Like if somebody
Yeah.
comes to you and say asks you out on a date, like they've really put themselves out there. And you kind of giving them back, even if you're going to say no, let's say, you kind of giving them back just a way to walk away and still feel like they weren't embarrassed publicly, or like it's just
Yeah.
it is kindness, it is like that is just what you should be doing, in my opinion. Is they put themselves out there, but you can still be kind and give them kind of a way out. And I see that being the case in D&D even more so, because there's this place where it's like, man, if you have this weird or awkward situation, you can't just walk away and go back to your house or dorm or whatever, like you have to somewhat stay at the table and keep playing this out. And so giving those verbal cues and ways for people to like have a safe way out, I think is just really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of, I think there's a lot of nitty gritty stuff when you get into um, how to just manage people. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about how do you protect people? How do you make people feel comfortable? How do you pursue the things that matter? Because we're playing a game, but also relationships last significantly longer than the game, and that's important too. And so it's hard to be like, hey, no, don't flirt with the other players at this table. I mean, that's a hard thing to say at times. I think many DMs have said that, and I definitely do not put that against them. I think that's great. You understand the lengths of your table, and what's good there. Man, there is so much that goes into it. I do think, yeah, I don't know. Relationships that have already started, I think, function better than just flirting at the table. I think that in and of itself, man, just being hit on in general is just often a negative experience. It's like 1 out of every 20 times that's a positive thing. More often than not a good experience. So like, yeah, it's just that's just hard in general. And not to mention getting rejected is also not a fun experience. So that happens maybe more than 1 out of 20 times.
Say 19 out of 20 times if we're
Yeah.
going
Well, I
based
mean,
off of.
Well, I was going to say it's even less than that you don't get rejected. It's probably more like 49 out of 50 times flirting ends in rejection. So it's just not a good idea to do with a
These
group
are
of
not
people.
statistics that we have fact checked.
No,
We are
sorry,
just making
No.
stuff up. But that being said,
87%.
I agree with the guesses.
87% of statistics are made up anyways. So
Yeah, well,
including that one.
That's true.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, do what you want, but I think at the core of all of it, just care about people, treat people well.
Yeah. Elijah, do you think it is okay to have a conversation and say, hey, I'm not okay with relationships starting at this table? Do you think, because like, is that even the purview
I
of
don't think
to speak
so.
about into that?
Okay,
Yeah.
so personally, right? I would say, and this is like, I've definitely not experienced yet like D&D bringing together a couple. Um, so
Oh, interesting.
maybe someday. But like, I definitely think that there is a place where if you're at the table, I'm never gonna be like, hey, no dating relationships are allowed to form here at my table. Um, but I think that if it, I think I would go back to my session 0 stuff, which is, hey, um, you know, is everyone comfortable with character relationships or not? And you get feedback, and it's like, cool. I often have said that like I'm always comfortable as a DM role playing out relationships if you want them to exist, but like the drawback of that is you do have to flirt with me, the DM. And so like you know pros and cons. But the thing that I would say that is unique is I would never be like, no, you can't. But I think that if I saw it start to kind of like pop up as like, oh, this is like a character to character relationship, I would probably be like, hey, like we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with this. And so if you guys want to do this, we have to bring it up to the whole table. And if it doesn't work, then you should just kind of leave it in the wings and be like, hey, in our head canon, this is happening,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to like be verbalized. Um, I've read a lot of books. I have a lot of headships that don't ever come to fruition, right? Like throwing that into your D&D campaign just in my opinion sometimes makes the story feel more real of like,
Yeah.
yeah, this character is actually like madly in love with them, but they'll never say anything. Um
Yep.
so
Yeah. I like
yeah,
that saying leave it in the wings, where
yeah,
it's just like, yeah, it can happen. It's just happening off stage. It's
yeah,
not something that is really, it needs to be affecting the game.
yeah,
Yeah.
For sure. I do
It's
think
interesting. Go ahead.
when you not allow is the wrong word. When relationships have a tendency of popping up at tables between players, I do think there is just a place where if you're not going to head it off, if you're just like, oh, it's fine, you also have to accept the consequences that may end your table. Like you might have a different table coming out of it. And I think in a lot of cases, that's fine. You're often more friends with one person maybe than the other. And it's like, oh, okay, like we'll keep playing D&D afterwards. But I think it'd be really tough if I'm like really close friends with both people and I'd want to play D&D with both of them and they're starting a relationship and it may not go anywhere and you're just like, man, this could ruin us playing D&D, but also I don't really have a say in this.
Yeah.
Obviously. So I don't know, it is just a hard
Yeah. I
thing
don't
to
really
walk.
think there's much to say. I don't think there's really much advice we can give to DMs here other than pray for the best.
yeah.
But like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this
Good
is
luck.
this is a
Roll
word
with
this is a word
advantage.
to players. Hey, if you care about the rest of the people at your table, maybe don't start relationships
Or
with your
just
other.
really keep it away
Yeah, yeah.
from the table as much as possible.
Hey,
I
I've seen exes play at D&D tables. I've seen
yeah,
that happen.
it wasn't a pleasant experience for me when I saw it happen.
Right. Well,
But it's happened before.
yeah.
No.
On the same point though, like, because I do think we obviously have talked about that a decent amount, talking through player to player. But I do think character to character relationships, and even like I also want to bring up character to NBC relationships, because I think there's a lot to this. We don't have to talk about this for a super long time, but I do have a couple things to say. I think this is good. What's interesting to me is the more we talk about D&D, we talk about stories, we talk about all of these things. The last couple episodes, we've kind of touched on like what makes what makes TTRPGs really meaningful, what gives them like sort of what makes them memorable, what makes them things we love or things that we care about. A lot of what we've talked about has been talking about what moves us, what is good for us, or in the right seasons, what things like pull us into the world and push us forward, or think about things. What's very interesting is I find that um, some of the most motivating things in real life are relationships, whether dating relationships or friendships or familial relationships, whatever those are. That like your relational bonds are some of your greatest motivators and things that move you forward. Most of the movies that people would cry about have to do with the creation of relationship, the loss of relationship, um, or the death of a person, which I think is still the loss of relationship. Like there's like that is what a majority of tears are shed about, and because those are like a lot of what very moving things. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. Like those are very moving things. Even seeing people. I think success also creates a lot of
I was
joy
gonna
and a
say
lot of
people like overcoming odds and succeeding.
I do,
There's a
yeah.
lot of kind of tearful moments, but still
No,
often
I agree
within
with you.
relationship. You know,
Many of it, much of it
yeah.
is. And so, like, when I think about that, I'm thinking like, man, there's actually a lot to, um, like there being relationships within your games, even just like, hey, I'm playing a character that's married is interesting. I don't see a lot of people doing that. Like it's not overly done. But playing the character who's like, oh, I lost my parents and I'm avenging them, or my wife died is a common one, or like they killed my brother, like often we bring up these like core relationships as big motivators because they are incredibly motivating to characters and we relate to them very well. And so it's really easy for us to sort of embody that or to step into the shoes of that character because we know what it feels like to care about someone. And so I think that's just a really easy way to step into characters. And so I think about like character to NPC relationships. I think that can be very valuable because it can create a lot of deep growth. And I think especially like, as we talk about even escapism, like thinking through what are the things that you're motivated by in real life. A lot of people are just searching for love, searching for significant others, searching for something to put their identity in, someone to put their identity in. And it can be nice to just do that at the table sometimes. Like that's a lot of people write romance because they enjoy it. They get to embody their characters. And I think that happens a lot in D&D too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits, a lot of good things, but
Totally. I would put the caveat on that, like, in the same way, there are some people that, like, okay, Jack has found that outside of the table, and so he,
yeah,
like, may not feel the same kind of calling there. And also, I think, like, the big thing is I, as a DM, don't really mind it because for me, it's like, oh, it's just a game, and so, like, I know, like, there's a really clear line for me of like, hey, this is being role played. I play
right.
at a PG-13 table. Nothing like explicit is ever happening. It's just gonna fade to black and we'll move on. And
Yeah.
not everyone is even comfortable with that level of having relationships in your TTRPGs. And especially DMs that, like, hey, if you're, providing relationships for 3 PCs at your table, that's a lot of work to be doing.
Yes.
And that's a lot of emotional investment that it's like, well, this one, this character, their romance is seems really great. And this one, it's like written in the last 30 seconds and it just feels shorted. And so I definitely would say that there is a big gap of like, yes, this can be wonderful, but
Yeah.
as we have said countless times in this first season, you have to make sure that it is okay with not just your DM, but everyone at the table.
Mhm.
And I would say, like, as a general rule, even if it is like, yeah, everyone's okay with this, I would try really hard to not have it like interrupt the flow of play of like, hey, you know, you don't have to bring this up every single session. You can, do these small things, or even like, I remember watching something and it was like, yeah, I'm like, every day I take 10 minutes and I write a letter to so and so. And it's like, I know that I'll never get responses because we're always traveling on the road, but I write letters and I send them. And I'm like, great. That's like a very cool, you're doing this, it's happening,
Yep.
but it isn't impacting the game, and it will matter more in the future.
Yeah.
And so I think those little things in character are really helpful to not have it detract from the entire experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to
I
caveat
al-
exactly what we were talking about earlier as well. Always keep in mind that you don't want to make your characters feel uncomfortable. While I know like me and I think Elijah as well said there's a very clear line where it's compartmentalized in our heads. Uh, Not everyone compartmentalizes like that. And while I think it's fine that I'm playing a character and I'm flirting with your character, even as an NPC or a player, whatever, there are definitely people who would be very uncomfortable with you flirting with them, even through a character. And you're just doing it like, what do you mean? It's just a story. It's not, I clearly am not actually flirting with you. But that experience can be really uncomfortable for people. So just keep that in mind as well. And I think we've made that caveat, but I think it's worth saying again.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well,
To
I
cut you
think
off,
that
Jack.
we have talked enough about this. Unless
We're done
anyone,
with your topic, Josiah. Jack
no,
said so.
we spent 25 minutes on the question. It was a
okay,
good question though. Like I
Oh,
really appreciate
you
it.
guys didn't know this is our 2-hour season finale. So
Oh, we
it's
have
improvised.
backup
not
questions
talking about
We have
prepped.
so much time.
No, we'll go through our primary questions. We're gonna back to back hit our backup questions.
Great, Jack. Go ahead.
all right.
Hit us with your next question.
Next question. When and how can homebrew be bad? We
Interesting.
could also talk about how it's good, and I think we will just by talking about some of that. But like, when is it bad?
I think that it is bad when it destroys the verisimilitude of the game.
Okay.
When it makes it so it's like, okay, well, this is unrealistic. This is super unhelpful. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm playing in a gritty, realistic campaign, and we're playing in a low magic system. And like we're like we can't even take short rests because we're gonna die. Like so we're just grinding it out. We're making all these things. There's like hardly any magic in this world. Well, and then I stumble across a spaceship, and now this spaceship just like teleports from place to place, and it shoots laser beams, and it's like, all right, you have pulled me out of this world. I am no longer in this world. You have hurt the story. Actually, I get that it's cool. I get that it's fun. You've kind of hurt the story. I was in the world. I understood it. I don't anymore. You have taken me in a very different direction, and you can do that tastefully. It can be intentional. You might be playing a comedy podcast and you're like, this is supposed to be funny. It's out of the place in general. Or like so you stumble across something you have never seen before. This is shocking to you. This is technology from a future far ahead of you. Okay, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm still in the world. This is intended to be this way. You know what I mean? There are ways to do it, but I do think some of that homebrew can just be like, all right, yeah, I'll leave it there because I could say 40 reasons why I think it can be bad, but I'm sure Elijah has thoughts too.
Yeah, I think homebrew can be really bad when the DM feels like he's losing or she that they're losing, and so they like kind of like well, I'm going to create this thing that counters the party perfectly and like ruins the thing that you've been doing, right? I think that can be a really bad thing. Anything that is abusive to the system and the functions of D&D is just going to be like, hey, you know, there are better ways to deal with this. There are better ways that you can deal with some of these issues, like even in narratively. Like it does not have to be a, oh, I'm dealing with, a party that has too much power, and it's like, well, I'm just gonna, make a room that magic items can't enter into, and that's where the boss is hiding. And it's like, okay, well, like that doesn't really exist in D&D, and so it's really hard for me to then look at you and be like, yeah, well, if that's the case, then I would like to, cast anti-magic field and destroy that. And so that way we can bring our magic items in here. And it's like, no, you can't. And so when you get to a point where like homebrew is kind of, the party doesn't have a way around it, and it's like, nope, this is just how it is now. That is very verisimilitude breaking. That is kind of the like, it's very robbing to the party. I think that can be very challenging. Um, I think another way is like when you negate the need for core mechanics because of homebrew. And it's like, hey, I have this magic item. I don't even have to roll now. I get a 15 on everything, and I have a plus 5 at least. And so it's like, I have a 20 every single time that I like do anything. And it's like, okay, well, that's not fun for anyone. Like the only reason that now I roll is to see if I crit or not. But at the very least, I have, this. And so if you're, I think that homebrew is a great option for narrative purposes, right? And there are times that you do need to mechanically kind of balance some things out, maybe with your monsters, and maybe you want to create a really challenging concept, and that can be a lot of fun. But I think that like homebrew gets really bad really quickly when you immediately are trying to overpower or undo something that is already canon in the campaign.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. I'll even double down on the like, not only does it make a core mechanic like irrelevant, but it's also like there's homebrew that just make other things less fun. You know what I mean? Like we've talked about the class like the class fantasy. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh yeah, I am a fighter, but I have this magic item that makes it so that when I get angry, I have resistance to everything, and I get advantage on all of my attacks, but I'm still a fighter. And it's like, okay, so you're just also a barbarian. That's fine, I guess. But you're just doing what the barbarian does, but you are also still a fighter, so you get all of those benefits, I guess. It's like, okay, well, you've just made something else in the game less fun because you thought it was fun to do this other thing. It's like, let the different players do this different things, like
Yes.
anyways.
Yeah. So the first answer was verisimilitude. The second answer was unbalancing things. And I do think both those can be bad versions of homebrew. I also think like anytime that you try and like use game mechanics for social reasons outside of the game, like things get really sticky and tricky, it's just like, oh yeah, that just doesn't sit well at all.
Like, what do you mean? Give me an example of that.
Like specifically where you guys were talking about, like before your example, Josiah, Elijah was kind of talking about that idea of like, oh man, I'm using mechanics because I'm angry and I'm the DM, like part of the reason there's a system is because the DM is agreeing that they're going to somewhat play within those rules and that things will be somewhat balanced. If you want a less balanced system, the fair way to do that is kind of to play a different game. There are systems like Call of Cthulhu or Shadow Dark, where your characters are going to die more frequently, and that's a part of the social contract playing those games. And when you try to turn D&D into that, especially if you don't communicate it, it's not going to end well. I do think one of the weird things that I was thinking of when I thought of this question was like, I think that too much homebrew, even good homebrew, too much homebrew, it removes some of the ability to talk to other people about this game. Like, there is this place where it's like part of the fun of D&D is getting online and hanging out with other people who love D&D, whether watching their content or being on Discord forums or, just stuff like that. It's really fun. It's fun to be able to talk to people about that stuff. And when you're like, oh yeah, I play D&D with this huge amount of caveats, it's like, at that point, the language that allows you to kind of speak to other people breaks down to a certain extent, and you're not really playing the same game. And then if somebody comes to your table and they're like a new player and they're like, oh yeah, I've played a lot of D&D, and you're like, well, now you're going to play it completely different. Like, that just often leads to horror stories and stuff. So
If
I do
you've
think
ever
there's
played a board game and you like love that board game, and then you go somewhere else and they're like, oh yeah, but we play with these 15 house rules. You're like, great. I love that you guys do that.
and that,
I'm
like,
gonna go play somewhere else.
yeah. And you play it and you're like, wow, the competitive nature of this game is completely gone. Okay.
Or ramped up by 10, depending on
Oh
the
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
Or what is a casual game is not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that, like, one of my big things that I am always fighting for, because I write most of the campaigns that we run. I've used some written modules before. I've used a written module in a homebrew campaign. I've homebrewed a written module a little bit. But I think one of the big things that I am always fighting for is, like, I don't want to overdo it. There are certain things that I'm like, you know what? This exists in the game. And I think that, like, I have been working really hard on a campaign that I'm currently running. So, with as little spoilers as possible, I will just say that, like, I have hidden a mystery in this campaign, and my players could deduce a couple of things about the world the more that they know about the mechanics of D&D. And I have told them this. This is not like a spoiler or anything. It's not like, I'm lording over them that I know more about D&D. But it's like, hey, if you start putting some of the pieces together about how the mechanics work and how, like, what classes have access to and things like that, there will start to be some questions in your brain that will just sort of, like, scratch and kind of make you ask this question. And it's like, yeah, that's correct. And, like, obviously they have made some progress in that, and they have not made some progress in other areas there. But it's been a lot of fun to be like, no, like, I am doing this as, like, it is totally valid by the rules of D&D that this is happening. And it's very rewarding for the players to be like, wait, I know that this isn't possible. And it's like, wait, that means this is not true, or this is true. Which is just a really fun twist to add to, like, it's not the mystery is never going to be, well, I just homebrewed something to work around this so that you can never know it. Right. It's like, no, you actually, because we're all playing in the same system on the same playing field, you get the benefit of being able to deduce this, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting, like, while you were talking about it, I was thinking about it. And I think I may have lost my train of thought as soon as I started talking. So we'll see if I can find it on the way out. But like, there are times when your homebrew, I found it again. Your homebrew can actually take away what this specific system does well. Like, there are lots of different systems, and each of them are good for different things. Certain systems are good at telling mysteries. Certain systems are really good at combat and digging into the nitty gritty of things. Certain systems are better for, um, is the first thing I said mysteries? Did I just say
Yep.
mysteries a second
Yep.
time? Certain systems are good at mysteries again.
Yeah.
Other systems are really good at combat and getting into the nitty gritty of things.
Some systems are really good at creating a sense of deja vu. In the
Right,
sense
that
of,
too.
No, but
Uh,
but I think there are places where, um, let's just say the system is really good at combat. It has made it so, it is hard to live in this system. Like, this is a dangerous system. You have a high chance of dying, and you are playing in this system because it is unsafe, and that is like a core part of the world that you have built, but that is difficult. So you homebrew into this game. Oh, well, I'm adding a runaway mechanic. So now anytime you're in combat, if you want to, you can just use this homebrew mechanic that I added that allows you to run away. And it's like, okay, so you didn't break the game. Like you technically didn't do anything wrong. You added a mechanic you thought was cool. That's fine. However, it was very intentional that the game was built without a running away mechanic. That was like, it was built that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And so when you specifically put a mechanic into the game to undo something about it, or it's like, hey, I don't like combat. So like, I created a combat. I created a mechanic where we can just all make a couple rolls before combat starts, and we can just skip over this combat. It's like,
Right.
okay, I mean, that's fine. That's cool. That might work really well in a different system. But you've really missed a ton about the game that you're playing if you just do it that way. Like, this is a D&D is a system that's built around combat and like making it like that's how you engage with the world in a really real way in most of this campaigns. So you're like, yeah, we're just gonna forgo those because combat takes so long. I mean, you have to get through so many rounds. So just roll 3d20 for me, and we'll average them out, and whatever that average is, that's how well you did in this combat, and then I'll give you some things based off of what you rolled, and then we'll move on to the next one. It's like, all right, I mean, that's fine. If you're doing that for story reasons and you're just trying to blitz to the next one, like, and you're gonna do with real combat the next one, that's fine. But like, if you've done that for your whole game, you're like, okay, you're not playing D&D. Go play a different system. You want to play something not combat based. You are playing a story campaign. You know what I mean?
And I think that is like, that is not to say that you can't add mechanics to your TTRPG to make it do something unique, right?
Yeah.
But don't undermine the system by adding in that mechanic.
Yeah.
Don't like, Jack does something really really awesome in our D&D campaign. Is he has like, we'll have kind of like chase sequences or escape sequences, and basically what he does is, it's like, hey, you know, the building is coming down, or something that you cannot beat in combat is chasing you, and it's like, you need to escape right now. And so look at your character sheet and your abilities and the things that you can do, and come up with creative ideas. And we're going to kind of run this not quite like turns, but
Yeah.
a certain number of successes means good things happen, a certain number of failures means bad things happen. D&D
Right.
doesn't have a mechanic for that, but it also doesn't undermine the like combat being core to
Right.
the mechanic, core to the game, because it's like, hey, combat is core to the game, but sometimes you just can't win a fight and you
Right.
need to run away.
This is a
And
mini game actually that you've
exactly.
added, and it's super fun.
Yeah, and that is a ton of fun, because then you can go, oh, I want to come back and fight this thing when I'm strong enough. That also then adds to the player realizing that there is something to strive for in D&D, of like, oh, I would like to be more powerful so that I can fight this thing. And so I think that is a huge part of like yes, you don't want to undermine things, but also like don't be afraid to add homebrew just because like, oh yeah, it can be bad. Like anything can be bad. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to do good with it.
And I think what we're saying too is like, not everybody's a game developer. Not everybody can look at the game, and part of it too is like, I really enjoy game development. I do that kind of as a hobby in my free time of like, that's something I want to get good at and learn more about and, understand better. And so a big part of that is knowing what the vision is, like we talked about class fantasies. There's definitely an RPG fantasy, like what are you trying to do with this? If you don't know what you're trying to do, it's going to be all over the place. And when you don't understand the system you're playing and you try to homebrew for it, it can feel really out of balance or out of whack or like it's out of place, and that's a lot of what you guys talked about, even the verisimilitude stuff, the unbalanced stuff. It was like a lot of that is like, man, I don't totally understand what this system is meant for. And so when I change it, it feels too changed. It feels too different, And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that, especially if you're willing to learn. Like these are none of the stuff we said was like, man, that means you should never do that. It's like, no, just be willing to see when it's not working or see the consequences of your actions. Maybe you're okay that the system you're running is not going to be able to translate to anyone else's table. That's okay. Like that's fine. That can
It's
still
okay
be
to be
fun.
balanced, or it's okay to be unbalanced for an arc. If you want your
Yeah.
character to feel really overpowered for a little while, that's
Yeah.
okay.
It really is. And if you want to, we'd said don't make the homebrew where your characters can't bring their magic items into this room. But at the same time, and the campaign we were running, that was our longest running one, there was a place where Elijah was like, man, I gave out too many magic items. Where you're headed, you can't take any magic items with you. Now, he had talked to us about it beforehand. We agreed as a table that that's what we wanted to do. But that was a homebrew mechanic. Like, obviously, we could have taken magic items with us. Like, there was nothing in the system that said we couldn't. But
And
within the
I will
world-
say I made that a narrative thing in
Yeah.
the game, not a mechanical thing in the game.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but it also it wasn't mechanically we couldn't bring it, but it was like, hey, you can't bring it
Yes.
because this reason, it
Yeah.
might do something or other. And so it's like, oh, okay, like I gotcha. We can't bring it in there. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
more of a narrative thing.
Whatever you take into that forest, you will find at Star Wars Episode 5.
Yes,
Anyways.
yes, well, fair. Maybe somebody else. had
Spoiler
that.
alert for Star Wars.
Yeah, there it is.
episode.
I don't know why we didn't name that episode spoiler alert. We absolutely should have. I think it was like 15 times.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh
god.
man.
Such a great
Anyway,
episode.
let's. Yeah.
keeping it rolling. I'm so glad that you just brought up a previous episode. We have had a very fun run. We have talked about yes, we're going to read through the list real quick. We've talked about session 0 and session 1. We've talked about world building as a whole. We've talked about storytelling. We've improvised several times over. We've talked about group size, alignment, problem player. We've talked about themes and the media that we consume and that we love. We've talked about types of D&D, optimizing character creation, optimizing your characters. We have talked about combat, main characters, DMing, immersion, and all sorts of other things in between all of those episodes. So the question that I have for you is if there is one thing that you would like to chuck out there for the rest of this season, like, hey, we're wrapping this up. If there's one thing that you're like, hey, I really want to talk about this, I'm going to give you guys 5 to 10 minutes to jump on your soapbox and kind of say, hey, I think this is super important and I want your opinions on this. So this is kind of a longer question. So yeah, I will open the floor to see if you guys have anything that you're like, man, I do wish that I had talked more about that. And it could be from a specific episode if you remember. It could be like, oh, I was just re-listening to this and I wish I would have added one extra sentence here. It doesn't have to be an in-depth thing, or it can be a whole extra topic.
Because you're killing me because I literally just listened to the episodes And while listening, I was like, oh man, I should have brought up this point, but I don't remember what it was. And so now I'm here like, shoot, what was I going to say?
That's the joy
Oh,
of improvised tales
that was
about
so
the table.
good, whatever it
is,
was. Oh man.
I know, right?
Yeah, okay. So what is one thing that I wish we would have talked about more, and now I get the opportunity to just rant about it for a minute. Obviously, I would love to talk about AI, but I think we actually will do a full episode on that. So I'm not super worried about that one.
Okay.
Because again, I use a lot of AI in my games, and not to run them for me, but just to as a supplementary thing. I think AI is great. I know that I'm in the minority on this, but I won't talk too much about it so I don't get canceled yet. I'll get canceled next season.
Oh no.
Man.
Please do not get canceled any of our seasons.
Well, I just mean, sorry. I mean specifically by the uptype D&D community who yeah.
We're still getting canceled. That's still not a good idea.
Creatives don't like AI. That's just been a sort of true statement as of lately. Anyways, yeah, I'm belaboring this point too long.
I was gonna say you might as well just talk about it at this point.
At this point, we're just gonna jump in.
Man, no. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the joy of hyper focusing. I love to hyper focus on meaningless things. And there have been many times in which I have. In one specific instance, I remember putting countless hours into designing my house in a D&D campaign.
Yes.
Because we were playing this campaign and we bought a mansion. And it was just like a thing, which yeah, some people just gasped. They're like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you bought a mansion? What do you mean you purchased?" Yeah, we were given way too much gold. Yeah, we were given way too much gold. Anyways, so we bought a mansion with money to spare. And then it was like, "Hey, what do you want your mansion to look like? How do you want this to like be set up and stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, I have thoughts." So what I began to do was I began to graphic design and try to build out a full floor plan of what this house would look like. I was trying to grid the whole thing out. I was doing it all on Photoshop. I'm building my own textures, and I'm like putting all of these things into it. I want it to be like to scale. I want it to all make sense. So this is a map that we can come back to for future games. And I am not adept at Photoshop in any way, shape, or form. So this took me significantly longer than it would have taken someone else. And I think genuinely, I don't even know if I actually finished that project, but
I don't think we did.
I put a ton of time and effort into it because I thought it was super fun. And there have been many other times in the game since then where I just put a lot of time into things. Like for instance, in the same campaign, I did have a romantic interest, and we wrote letters back and forth, and I cannot tell you how long I spent authoring these letters. I mean, I would spend hours just like, nope, that's not what I wanted to say. Let me rewrite this. Yeah, that's a little better. But I want to rephrase this thing because it meant so much to me, the details. I have no idea where I'm going with this.
Not at the table. I do want to just chuck that out there. It's not like
both,
Josiah
all of this
stopped, and he was like, all right, now we're going to pause the game and graphic design everything. Well, actually, that's a bad example.
I think that I
did
pause
in
fact
we paused the first session in which that came up and was like, no, I'm going to like tell you exactly what this looks like.
Yeah.
But the letters, we did not pause the entire game.
The letters were all homework aside from the game. Yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that. I also think, man, is it fun to talk about your worlds? I remember specifically sitting in an empty college classroom with two of my other student leaders, spending an hour mapping out the love triangle going on in our campaign and giving them all of the lore and the details as if I was sharing like life points over the last 5 years of content from like a personal character. And it was like, nope, this is a character I made. This is the campaign we're playing, and here's all of the details, and here's the tea going on. And man, it's just fun. I like hyperfixating. I like these goals and ideas. I have no idea what the purpose of this is. I'm just ranting at this point. But I think
I gave you a
fun.
soapbox.
Fixate more on
Yeah,
your
no.
D&D.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think there is a place to build it in space. You know, like not every time that we come to play D&D do we actually play D&D. Sometimes we will just hyperfixate on certain aspects of it or things like that, you know, and that there should be space for that in D&D. The cool part about this game is you guys are doing it, and that means you guys get to do it the way you want to. You know, to completely go against bad homebrew, you can homebrew however you want and put it in however you want, and that's a fun part of the game. I think something that I wanted to touch on for just something I didn't maybe feel like I was able to talk enough about. Um, we've talked so much about this, but I'm just very passionate about it. Is like kind of the somewhat the social aspect, but somewhat the mental health aspect of D&D. And this is something that's very important to me. And I know we've talked about this, you know, but if I was going to point to one thing that I felt like I had to cut myself off really and be like, all right, I got to stop here, you know, it definitely was that. And I think there's this place where D&D, I love this game partly because it brings me together with people, partly because, you know, I get to play a fun board game and be creative. But like, I really enjoy this game because it has taught me things about myself and it has helped me to process hard things that have happened to me. And I love that. That a game that I play with my friends has helped me to overcome blind spots in my life that I didn't even realize, has helped me to process trauma in my life that I didn't totally know how to express, you know? And I'm somebody who thinks and talks a lot about my internal world. And it still revealed things to myself that I didn't realize. And I know this isn't going to be for everybody. A lot of people come to this game for different reasons and different things. But like, man, for the few people out there that will ever hear this first of all, and actually this applies to, like, just to say, like, lean into some of that respectfully, do it in a way that your table it's appropriate for the table you're playing at, but like you really can learn a lot about yourself in this game, and you can learn a lot about who you want to be and who you don't want to be. And I remember hearing there was an author, I'm forgetting who it was, and he sent his book into the editor, and he had written one book and had done really well, and the editor read it and sent notes back to him, and the notes were like, hey, you're a good author, but you're scared to put yourself into your work because you're putting it out there for everyone to judge, and you're holding yourself back, and it's kind of obvious, and you're not going to really succeed or get very far if you keep doing that. And it kind of this a little bit like, hey, be brave a little bit, put yourself into these characters. And you hear all the time, like, don't do that. And that's why I'm saying this is very specifically for a few people out there. But for you few people, put yourself into your characters, you know, as long as you're respectful and you know the people you're playing with, like, discover yourself in them. Like, discover who you want to be and who you don't want to be. Discover, you know, where you have been hurt and have your characters process through similar things and see them be brave and be brave like them, see them fail and pick up their life after huge failures and be like them, see them be stupidly persistent in the face of pain and hardship because they're characters in a book, and then be like them. And I think there's just something healing and good about that. Seeing people face things that you're scared to face yourself and seeing them go on and realizing you can too. Silly and stupid for sure, but like I hope that somebody finds our podcast at some point and hears that and goes, okay, I'm going to build that character. I'm going to put myself into them and play in the world. And like we talked about previously, when you do that, you often are extending an invitation to the rest of the people at your table saying, hey, join me in this verisimilitude, join me in this immersion, like come into this world with me for the purpose of knowing more about the world we actually live in, about who we are. So anyway, that's what I would want to continue say more of. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about this question. I was like, oh, this will be a really good question. And then I didn't actually think of what my answer was going to be. And so now we're here, and I also get to deal with the consequences of my actions. Um, I think the thing that I would like to make sure gets stated in this season is that, and it's like it's obvious, it's implied, but we have not, I don't think we have really stated it clearly enough, is that we love D&D so much that we want everyone to love D&D. And so I'm going to break down like why it was really important for me. In the first episode, I said this little throwaway sentence of like, um, we don't claim to have all the answers, but this is like what we like to do with D&D. And the reason that I said that was very much like, hey, I love this game a ton. And it is such a diverse and open-ended game that I can play it one way, you can play it a completely different way, and we both can be playing it correctly and having a ton of fun for completely different reasons. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you ever hear something that's like, no, I really fundamentally disagree with that. I don't want that in my D&D game. Good. I hope that you take some of this and you're like, nope, that's not for me. But I hope that you do also find some things that are like, oh, that's so cool. I haven't thought about that aspect of D&D before, or that aspect of storytelling before. And I really hope that you do understand that like we love D&D. We are not trying to tell you that this is the right way to play D&D, and if you don't play D&D this way, that you will not enjoy yourself or you are robbing yourself of an experience. Now, if you came and played at our table, you would probably see a lot of this bleed out because this is what we love about D&D. And so, yeah, I will say again, like, yeah, we don't claim to have all the answers, but this is how we like to play D&D. This is something that we just thoroughly enjoy. Um, I cannot tell you how many hours that I have spent planning and playing and prepping D&D and then talking about D&D with my friends and then consuming content about D&D. This episode's going to come out about the time that we are currently at Gen Con, and we will be enjoying that.
Yeah. For all of our followers out there, if you happen to be at Gen Con, feel free to walk up to us and say hi. We love meeting fans.
Yeah. We might have t-shirts.
Yeah. That would be an unbelievable.
No, not for sale.
We might be
wearing a t-shirt. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, unconfirmed, but could be happening. But yeah, like we love D&D, and we hope that I hope I don't want to like force Jack and Josiah to get behind this as well, but I hope that this has encouraged your love for D&D as well. It is not a game that anytime that I have a take on this game, it is not to like protect it. It is not to keep it away from certain people or from being played a certain way. It's like, hey, I love this aspect of it, right? It's kind of like, I very much think of D&D kind of like one of my favorite books. And it's like, I love this book. And I love this specific character in this book. And I love this moment of this book. And I have favorites. And then I hand it to Josiah and I'm like, hey, you should read this book. And Josiah will latch on to different characters or maybe the same characters for different reasons. And different scenes will stick out to him. And he will pass that book along and it will stick out to someone else in a completely new way. And
Different
D&D,
character, same reasons.
yeah, is so diverse and so awesome in its breadth of storytelling, in its breadth of gaming, that I hope that you guys do enjoy and dive into D&D in a totally new way. It is about this time that we would typically wrap up
Normally.
the episode.
But we
Um,
just decided
But
we're not doing that. This is our 2-hour
Yeah.
special. Yeah.
collectively more people cheering there than all of the people that have watched all of our episodes combined. But hey, we're gonna do a 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
Some of us might be a little bit tired, so please bear with us because
Yeah, we're going for it,
we
though.
improvised this. We did not plan this ahead of time. We should
Not
have,
planned.
but you know, um,
It's okay. We had secondary questions.
yeah, we did. We did all come in with some secondary questions. So I did. I'm gonna throw out not my secondary question, but a filler question. Okay.
All right, right on.
What type of dice do you prefer?
Oh,
Metal?
great question.
Or digital or plastic or whatever? And do
For the
you have a
non-standard
favorite?
type?
Do you have a favorite set of dice?
Yes, I do have a favorite set of dice.
Right.
I am in the camp of I think I love having a different dice set for each character. I like my sets to be at least partially connected to that character's character, personality, to who they are. And so my favorite set is from my favorite campaign. That's just kind of the way that it works. It is a set of clear polymer's not the right word. I can't think of what it's called. The
Polyester?
I don't know what it's called. The regular dice material.
Plastic.
The one. I don't know if I would call it plastic, but the one. The one that, yeah, it's got little gears in it. I like it. They're orangey. They have little gears die cast into them.
Oh,
I think it's
resin?
fun.
You're talking about resin dice?
Yeah, just they're resin dice, I think is what they
I
are.
think those are different
I
from
like them.
plastic dice. At least when I've rolled them, they feel slightly different, but
Gotcha.
I don't know.
As
Well,
you
I
can
like
tell,
my
we're very
resin dice.
versed in our dice here.
Yeah,
No,
at
not-
this is a
Dungeons
not-
great
and
not
Tables.
first.
question. We're quite educated.
I've seen those non-standard dice that are like they all look like different ones. There's like ones where they're
Like
one looks
rogue
like a
tools
jester,
and-
one
yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, and you like spin them and they all land differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're not sand tested if you ask me, but I don't sand test my dice either, so whatever, it's fine.
They're
They're
salt-tested,
fun.
but it's fun.
They probably are sand tested. Whatever. You know what it means.
Amazing.
I would
I
say
prefer my
my
standard.
favorite are plastic. All
Yeah.
right.
Good
Okay, great.
answer. Okay.
That's a good answer. That's a good
Elijah,
answer.
Do you like your metal dice?
Show me plastic. I do like my metal dice. My metal dice are great.
Yep.
I have very much a favorite set of dice, but it's a set of dice that I found for a character because I don't often play characters. I'm DMing more frequently than I'm not. But I found this set of dice. I was like, yeah, I really do think, like, I picture this character wearing blue and he's an ASMR. And so, like, really focused on light and, like, holy whatnot. And I walked into a gaming store and found a blue and gold set of dice that had just like neat, light kind of lines on the set, and I was like, "Yeah, this is my favorite set of dice now." Um,
Yeah.
just instantaneously. So I'm a big fan of dice. I like to have a lot of dice. It's very much something that like when people play at the table with me, I often have too many dice, and so I'll be like, "You can take your very own set home with you, and these are your dice now," because I know that I'll probably buy 3 or 4 more sets before I play again with someone else.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I've got another little shorter question, kind of maybe.
okay.
If as you guys look back at all of the episodes that we have done,
Yeah.
what has been like your favorite episode that we've done? What's your favorite thing we've talked about, or like your favorite moment from podcasting? I mean, we've done 20 episodes so far. There's been lots of good moments, lots of things where we're like, wow, felt really good about that. What I said there, I thought that was really fun, or I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if I
What do you
could
guys think?
pick out a specific moment that I was like,
You could
yeah,
just do an episode. That's why I left it. I left it vague enough.
okay. I remember really liking, as I listened through it, Turtles All the Way Down. And that was a
Yeah.
good episode.
It was a good episode.
Is that what we called it? I don't even remember.
I don't remember something in Turtles.
Something in Turtles is
World
actually
building?
the name of the episode.
Really?
It might
No,
have-
it's
Oh,
not.
okay.
That would have
I was
been
like, something in
hilarious.
Turtles.
Man, I wish that I would
Man.
have. That would have been so
Yeah.
funny. No,
I don't know
I
if
think
I have an answer for this question either.
I think one of my favorite episodes, just because this might be a little prideful. So be it. I'm proud of the work that we did.
Mhm.
I loved our problem players episode. Um, I feel like a lot of times you hear the horror story side of it, and it's like, don't let your players be this person. And it was just, I really enjoyed like, hey, everyone that you are playing with is a person that has an experience and is going through something. Don't like snap judge. Don't cut people out of your life immediately. Um,
Yeah.
but also like do give yourself space for you to be like okay. I think that was one of my favorite episodes to do and to talk about. Because I enjoyed that we could kind of gently talk about that and not just, well, this is how it has to be. So
Mhm. Right. Man, there were so many good ones. I really liked. I thought our alignment episode was really fun. Just jumping into alignment and talking through all of the different characters and things. I thought that was very fun. Just jumping into that conversation, and because that was really fun to do the pre-work for as well, of
oh
like
yeah.
going through and like picking out, oh, what characters did I think were really good? Here's the ones I like. I thought this character makes a lot of sense for, and like we all each brought different takes too, and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so simple, easy. Yeah, anybody got a question? I can
Yeah,
do another one,
start.
but
I'll
yeah, go
start.
for it.
What advice do you have on playing characters whose stats do not reflect your own? Obviously, the more physical stats, it's a little bit easier. You can imagine if you were stronger, faster, quicker, whatever, more resilient. But especially the mental stats, how do you play somebody that is smarter than you are? As much as we'd like to pretend we all have 20 int, 20 charisma, and, incredible wisdom to boot, we clearly do not. And there's this
You clearly
What do
do
you
not.
mean,
Let's
clearly?
sure. But yeah,
I
That wasn't
have
supposed to be a
what
dig.
advice do you have for playing characters that are more than you would be?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna jump on this. I think the thing that I would say to players is like, it's a fantasy world, And so, talk with your DM. And one of the things that I remember um, that made our campaign work really well is Jack always knew what to do socially in the world that we were playing when he was playing a noble warlock, and it was like, hey, so like what would the rules be for this? And I was like, I don't know, you tell me at times. And he was like, can this be true? um and so like there was this really cool thing where I kind of got to be behind him on that. And so I think one of the big things that, like, and I've seen other people do this as well, is allow your players to make things true about the world, right? And not like, doesn't have to be big things. You don't have to, it's like, oh, I have like a higher intelligence than I do as a person, right? It's like, and I'm a wizard and I know a ton about arcana, and so it's like, yes, there's no such thing above 7th level spells, and the DM can be like, no, no, that's not true of this world, right? Like, obviously, within bounds, but I think giving your players some free reign to then be like, hey, um, you get to kind of create this, and you get to kind of prove that this is true. I think wisdom is probably the hardest one to, I'll say, fake. Um, because yeah, wisdom is something that you get over time, right? Like the wisdom
Yeah.
that I have at 25 is very different than the wisdom that I would have had at 19 and 18 when I was first DMing. And so
Yeah.
I think that would be the hardest one. Um, and my advice there would be uh, Google search a lot of quotes about wisdom and just regurgitate them as your character.
That's pretty great. I'm a big
and
fan of that.
and you know what? Maybe it won't be perfect, but like it doesn't have to be. And don't let yourself get bogged down by like, well, I have to role play them perfectly. We're people. We always mess up something. And it's okay if you don't role play something that, like, an attribute that you might be a little bit lacking in perfectly, right? I have found that, like, I have explained how strength works incorrectly. Of like, oh yeah, if you have a 20 strength, you can just like chuck this around. And it's like, yeah, well, a lot of people can actually chuck things around, but it's strength is also like knowing how to do it and not throw your back out when you're doing this. And, those other things that like I've never thought about before. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that, yeah, if you're role playing skills that you lack, um, look it up. But then, yeah, talk with your DM and
Yeah.
say, hey, how can we make this feel cool?
Right. Well, it's definitely an interesting question. It's hard to I don't want to say don't, but I think that is an interesting point to bring up. I mean, like, if you think about it, if you're talking about role playing, I mean, that's acting is what it is. If you were auditioning for a play or for a musical, they're probably not gonna cast uh like a small soft spoken uh you know very very shy timid person to be Frankenstein's monster. It just is like, okay, well, that's not you're not exactly feeling it. And so, like, if you're trying to do something, if you're trying to act uh into a role that's like very difficult and very opposite to your character, you are just gonna like you can, but you might find that you struggle with that a lot. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, I just got the role of this character. How do I act in this way like a character that I can't like a how do I speak very spoken when I actually don't like and can't speak loud?" Or like, how do I do that? Be like, how did you how did you get that role? Who cast you for that role? Like, that's an interesting position you've put yourself in. I like if you don't want to do that, then don't do that. But if you want to do that, because and this I'm ranting about this because I think I this is how I normally do things. I kind of find my way into what my answer is as I process it out loud. But I think my point is, if if you feel like you don't have the charisma to speak on something, right? Intelligence, wisdom, you can kind of just say things and they kind of like work themselves out. I feel like charisma is a hard one because it's like I'm trying to play a character that has a lot of charisma and I'm not a charismatic person. So I don't know how I'm going to do that. If you are playing a charismatic person and you don't feel very charismatic, you're definitely more of a soft spoken person. I would say one, either if you don't want to speak up about it, you want to remain soft spoken, well then don't play a character with a high level of charisma. That is a choice that you can make. If you do want to do that, then just lean into it. Like just uh, act in the way of that character. Step into it and just unashamedly act in a louder type of way. And I don't know. I
Just
don't
by
know.
his answer, just either do it or don't, like
Yeah,
either you
like
got the
Well,
sauce or you
the problem
don't.
sounds like either you want to or you don't. And if the problem is you don't want to, then don't play that character. I think is kind of the advice I'm giving.
I hear that. I will say we are creatures of dissonance. Like we do not we want conflicting things quite
Yeah.
frequently. And I think this definitely is a place where that would apply. Like I do think there
Yeah.
are people that want to be more charismatic, more outspoken, more cleverly spoken, like they want to have those abilities, and that's what a fantasy role playing game is. You get to live out
Yeah.
your fantasy of who you could be. Oh man, I talk and people listen and
Oh,
my words have meaning and weight. And it's like I could totally see somebody who doesn't feel like they're very skilled with those things wanting to play a character that's skilled with those things and live out that.
yeah.
um, so I don't know if I would agree with your advice, Josiah, of just like,
That's
don't
fine.
do it if you
I
don't
forgot
commit.
about the more practical advice I was going to say, which is if you were stuck in that role and you really had to play it, I would say just stick to your script. And if you can't stick to your like either
Andy
lean
doesn't have
into
a
it
script. What do you mean?
or stick to your script. And if you're
Yeah,
playing a character, script out some lines ahead of time. Like legitimately,
which is
like
kind of what
think
Elijah was
through.
saying with the, hey,
Right.
like I don't totally get how to play a wise character that's more wise than I am. Go look something up, like
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
I will let
I
Jack go, and then I do have something I wanted to add.
yeah, I was just gonna say I do think so. I'm reading a book series right now that I'm really enjoying, and in it, one of the things that I've been really blown away by.
Wait. You have to tell us what the series is so we can say spoiler alert for this
That's
series.
why I didn't tell you what the series
No,
was.
no, you
Oh,
have to.
nice.
ahead.
He's
I
like
was
he's like
thinking
no spoiler alert for this
Oh.
move for
No
this
spoiler
book.
alert.
Well, spoiler alert.
Say
If you
but
ever
it was.
read a book series that is getting close to this, just know that Jack might have spoiled it for you.
The
Jack,
author
I forgot where I read this. This is someone said this.
the author does a really good job of making his characters feel very distinct. Like even compared to many good books, it is just like wow, like his characters, not only do they have like different wants and desires and stuff like that, but it doesn't feel like I'm hearing the same voice. Oftentimes I
Mm,
feel like I can distinguish authors' voices, especially when it's like, oh, I think that's a little bit of your thoughts or your opinions about the world. And there are times that I think that about this author, and then it's like, oh, he has a character with a very well made argument that is completely disagreeing with the character that also had a well made argument.
yeah.
Um, and they're just very distinct. All of that to say, one of the characters in this book is supposed to be incredibly, like he would have a 19 or 20 intelligence. The author really does not seem to have that. He seems to his own personal skills seems to fall far more in the social realm. Um, but he leans into it in a really fun way of just like, okay, this character is going to have answers about things. And it's very similar to what Elijah was saying, where you ask the DM and you say, hey, I'm really smart. Like, would I know about, how the astral planes work with this world? Have I read stuff about this? Like, would I know?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
make that up if you don't have something made up, that my character could know and you could run with then, like, and similar with what we were talking about in social situations. Social stuff doesn't have to just be how well you speak. It can also just be like, how well do I know this culture? How well can I
Right.
fit in with this culture? How well do I know the rules of etiquette and things like that? That's social stuff. And that's stuff that you can ask your DM or make up jointly with him and kind of have that edge then to play your
Right.
character. And with wisdom
Same
is
thing.
also culturally based. And
Yeah.
so there is a place where it's like, hey, what would this culture view as wise? Are they incredibly nihilistic and the denial of possessions and anything? That is true wisdom, to be completely sufficient within oneself. Okay, I can lean into that and play this wise character. And I think that
Yeah.
there is a place where this is going to be a dumb answer, but go do some research, go study. If you want to sound more educated, go look up big fancy words before you play and use those big fancy words, because
Yeah.
that sounds educated, and you sound more like the character you're going for. If you want to be more socially adept, this is a weird one. Go watch interviews of actors on like SNL or other stuff. They are so socially adept often. Not all of them.
Shout out Charisma on Command, the
Uh,
YouTube channel.
I
Spoiler
don't
alert.
know if
No,
I
I'm
know what
kidding.
you're saying there, but yeah.
No. It's a YouTube channel that that essentially dissects different celebrities based off
Interesting.
of how
Cool.
they react in different things. Tom Holland, Charisma on Command, great episode. Same one about Brie Larson. Anyways,
Cool.
it's
Yeah.
a
Go watch
super
those
weird
YouTube
suggestion.
videos. That's a great idea. Like, I guess my point is, like, you don't have to actually be good at these things to kind of study these things and learn how to role play them. Not every actor is as smart as the character they're playing. They don't need to be. Not every actor is as charismatic as the character they're playing. Again, they don't need to be. They are playing a character. The world gets to somewhat bend around them to make them those things. And the last thing I'll say is, some of it's on the DM. Some of it is on the DM to be like, this person has a 20 charisma. There's a weight, there's a presence to them that the other NPCs are going to react to. This person has a 20 wisdom. There's a weight to their words. Like, people take them like, if the Dalai Lama were speaking, it's like, oh man,
Right.
we're going to really hear what they say.
And wisdom is understanding of the world as well, and the way that the world works. So it's like, hey, what would be like a good thing to do in this environment? Do I know how common it would be for a person to be in this space at this time? Because that's not necessarily intelligence as much as that is wisdom, at least a
Yeah,
little bit as well.
for
So keep
sure.
that in mind
Yeah,
too.
and so I just think you can ask more questions, you can do a little bit of research outside of it, and don't feel like you have to role play everything in the sense of like talking it out. You can also play a character that's, and this goes back to the book idea. The character so often doesn't actually say anything smart. He just is always referencing his books. And not in like a stupid way, but like anytime you succeed on a skill check, it's like, yes, in X book, and you just have a random list of books that you maybe have to the side. I read about this, and it's this or that, and regurgitating knowledge. That's a big part of intelligence. It's just memorization. You can have fake things memorized for your character to seem smart, like he's read all these books, because your character has, even though you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I that was the one thing that I did want to add is like, hey, if you are curious, like, how do you role play something that you don't have? Like intelligence, charisma, wisdom, we said were probably the hard ones. Those are all skills. And I think that it is worth noting, like, any skill that is out there in D&D, with the exception of Arcana, you can work and improve upon, right? and I'm not having the argument about whether or not we can improve Arcana. That's not for
How
this
can you
episode.
improve your
Uh,
history? I guess you talk to the DM. Yeah.
but I mean in real life, right? I'm talking, hey, if you would like to have more intelligence, use, I someone recently challenged me that we all have time. We just waste it on different things. And like not Josiah shaking
This
his head.
argument. I hate this argument. This is the
That's
dumbest
totally
argument.
fine. But
people who have too much time to think on their hands are the people saying those things.
maybe, but I have found it to be true. And it is a lot of times we think that we have to do things in like these big, huge investments or else there's nothing to it. And like 5 minutes a day of reading will improve your intelligence, will improve your knowledge base, right? There is benefit to putting effort and time into things. And so like, yes, I totally understand that it is not a set in stone thing that like everyone has plenty of time to go and spend doing things, but I'm sure that you could probably work yourself to find 5 minutes of time that you could read something or watch a video or
Audiobooks in the
do
car are
something.
great.
Yeah.
I appreciate this perspective. I will say, I think this might extend. This feels like a little bit more like you need to be a better person to play these characters.
I'm not
I
saying
don't-
you have to, but
Hey,
like I'm
hey,
saying
that's
if
what I said too. I said, hey, just don't play them.
I didn't say you had to. I'm saying if it's a concern, you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like you have more potential than you think. Like go
yeah.
do it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I
There
like
you go.
that message.
I don't know.
You're selling yourself short. You are intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not Josiah, but no.
Not me.
Oh,
Anyways.
Yeah. All right, Josiah.
Okay.
Smooth transition.
Mature Earth or New Earth? Sorry. Do you prefer your characters, when you are starting a campaign? Do you prefer that your characters have met previously and already have a relationship, or do you prefer them to meet and get to know each other as the campaign is starting? And I get that there are sometimes places where you want one and sometimes places where you want the other. What would be the reasons for either of those? What is the purpose of that? What are some of the pros and cons, the benefits? Let's hash it out. Pre-built relationships or new ones?
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I will take it meaning prefer, not like what is best. I think
Right.
that
That's what we're
both,
talking about.
it depends on the story you're trying to tell, obviously. I think I do prefer having known each other already. I think that one's harder because you then have to have interactions as if you've known each other, whereas you're getting to know this character and they're getting to know their character. And so there is a place where it's like, well, it's kind of easier if we get to know the characters together. That's why a lot of books do that, is so that everybody gets to know each other at the same time. But I do really like, playing wise, to have pre-built relationships. I think that solves a verisimilitude part for me, where it's like, yeah, I just met these I can't say it, but there was this one Reddit post that was like a bunch of chuckle meet in a bar, and then a week later they're defeating the Dark Lord. And it's like, yeah, it is kind of weird, like, that these people are so dedicated to each other all of a sudden and willing to go to the ends of the earth for each other. And it's like, well, it's not really how that often works. So I do really enjoy playing characters that have deep backgrounds with each other and getting to know, like, I think the good way to do that in stories is where those things influence the story. And it's a really big moment when you figure them out. Because then it's like, oh, all these pieces now fit together. I was understanding so much more of it. And I think you can do that in D&D, where it's like, oh yeah, we are playing these characters together and they do have history together. And the history they do have is impacting the world that we're playing with. And when that comes out at the table, it's meaningful, it's impactful as a result of that.
Cool. I disagree. Uh, I personally prefer.
You disagree that I prefer this
No,
method?
I disagree with that being the preference. My preference is different. What do you mean?
I don't understand. All
I
right.
don't- yes, I think that you don't actually prefer that. And here's no.
You've been disillusioned.
Yeah. Stop lying to yourself. Speak truth to yourself.
No
I
comment.
think that it is so much fun for me as both a player and a DM to see players meet or characters meet. Um, and I know that sometimes it is awkward. I know that sometimes it's like, well, why are we all hanging out together? But I think that it is more fun for me to be like, hey, I know why, like, I know how they all met. And I watched from that moment forward the campaign roll out. I recently did kind of cheat on this and kind of do both. But I had the party meet for the first time in a dangerous situation. Um, and they kind of, so I had them all roll initiative, and then like I ended that combat and I was like, and as you guys, like, as the smoke kind of clears, you see that you were the only ones that really ran toward the danger. Everyone else ran away. And it was like, and you guys kind of agree, and like there's a silent agreement that like we should probably keep doing this. And then I was like, cool. And now 4 months later, this happens. Right.
Yep.
And so I cheated. I did both. Right. I did the, hey, we just met, but also, hey, we have some stories together and we know each other in some capacity. But I think that it is a lot of fun to get that rough, like, oh, I don't really like this about this character. And like, that's kind of weird. And you think, what now? That is a lot of fun that I think is different from, oh, well, we've known each other forever. And, this really, this part of this character, like, I remember when this happened. And it's like, I know that you just made that up um, in your head. And I now have to go along with it as my character who also agrees that this is true, which can be
Yeah.
somewhat intimidating to like role play. I don't think it's bad one way or the other, but in my preference, it's definitely like, hey, I prefer when everyone meets together for the first time.
Yeah. I definitely
You
can
disagree
go
that that's
either way.
Elijah's
Yeah.
preference?
I think Elijah's disillusioned as well.
Great.
I go back and forth. I really do.
We both disagree with you on that one. We
Yeah,
know that
I
you
know.
really plant yourself and never
I
change
do.
your
I
mind
do.
about things.
So I did talk about this ever so briefly. I recognized as we got into this conversation that I feel like we actually did talk about this ever so briefly when we were talking about in the about character creation in the character creation episode.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that I brought up was that one thing that I do with my characters is I try really hard to make sure that I know what is going on in their life if this campaign didn't start. Like in order for me to have that verisimilitude, I need to know, okay, this character walks into a bar. They do that every day. This is like a part of their regular routine. I need to know everything that got them to this point, at least very loosely, so that I feel like I can step into this character and move forward. So I like to get my characters to a regular, consistent point where this campaign is now pushing them in a new direction. And so we talked a little bit about that. And so I think that helps a lot for me to get into character in order to step forward. And that is significantly um, more fun, I think, when you do that with multiple people, where you do that with people together. Like this is my best friend, that's my brother. and that's the girl at the bar that all three of us have liked for the last 15 years. And we're just going to leave it at that, and it's like, okay, so there's clearly, and if you build those things together, it's like you get to hash out some of these things that are super fun. And when you start that first campaign, immediately there's banter. Immediately there's some of this like character back and forth. There's these dynamics that you are just built in automatically because you talked about them ahead of time. And so you do feel like you get to just know these things offhand, and the world feels very real because you do know where the characters are at. On the other hand, that's very difficult to do. And I do agree with Elijah that it's hard to do that. You're not always going to have the space to build your characters with the rest of your party. And so being like, hey, I built this character. Okay, how do we know each other? Is an end of the character building process, and you just sort of throw it out there, and it's like, okay, well, let's homebrew it into the background, and that's, or not homebrew it, but let's like retrofit our characters to have known each other, and that always feels really uncomfortable. It very seldom goes well for me that I'm like, oh, okay, I built my character who's a street rat, who like grew up on the streets, was stealing from things.
And I built a lawful good paladin who has like sworn an oath to protect
Right.
the innocent and to lift up the poor. And we've actually been friends for 6 months now.
And I don't know how that worked.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make like, I'm a pirate and I'm the prince of this nation. All right, you guys are not friends. I don't I don't know how you're swinging that, because honestly, a lot of the to me, it makes a lot more sense for you to know the characters if you can spend the time to build them together in the character creation process. If you don't have the ability to do that, then I would say just meet everybody. And here's the reason why I would say also to meet everybody. We've talked about this before. Taking things and making them not a table problem, not a mechanics problem, but turning them into a story problem is almost always a good thing. If you can take the main issue, which is, hey, our characters don't really know each other, and that's really unsure, and I don't know why they would stick together, and make that a story problem of like, okay, well, as a DM, I need to do something that forces these characters to be together. Like there's a lot more verisimilitude for there's a lot more believability for why these characters would be together when you all get transported into Barovia, into Strahd together. It's like, okay, we're stuck together. So whether we knew each other or not, it's just us. It's us five that are stuck in this world. We should work together to get out. And it's like, there's no reason not to stay together. Like if a party split isn't going to happen. And if it does, it's short-lived because you're better as five than as two, so yeah, it just works. Like anytime you can make it a story problem, and that story problems have solutions. Mechanics problems don't always. And I don't know. I know that we're trying to call this a mechanics problem, but or me, I'm trying to call this a mechanics problem. I don't know if it's really a mechanics problem.
Player problems don't always, have the solutions there.
Right.
I will say, I think that characters having like they're always going to have to be connected in some way. I almost feel like what you're describing is like characters who don't totally get along. Why would they end up being together? Like what?
Oh, sure.
What happens when characters, like in real life, these people would not be friends. Not even due to their station, but just their personalities are clashing, and they clearly don't like each other. Like you're playing this character, and you're like, yeah, this other character just does not like that character. It's like, what do you do with that? And I don't know, something I found really interesting, another book I'd been reading recently, was talking, like, it had all the characters, it had the main character and like some of the side characters literally trying to fill slots on their team for things that they knew they were weak in. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting for like why characters might be coming together, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this paladin's really great at tanking and dealing damage, but he's not a skill monkey. Like they need somebody who can do that. Or he's not a high level caster. They need somebody who can do that, like, or a utility caster, and it's
Right.
like filling those spots in the team. And I was like, that's a very interesting one to bring into
Yeah.
D&D and kind of be
That is
like,
fair.
hey, like, yeah, these personalities might clash, but maybe they're coming together because it's like, look, we really need someone to fill this spot.
The gentle druid says to the paladin, "Leave him alone, Bartholomew. We need him."
Yeah. Like that way it's not even just like, oh, we need him because we're put in this dangerous situation, but we know we're going into dangerous situations. We need a well-rounded team, that type idea. So I do think there are other, I agree with what you're saying, I guess. I do think that those things can be interesting, and just like you have to choose your players specifically sometimes to people who are going to mesh well. I heard Matthew Colville once said finding a D&D group is like finding a band. And he's like, bands break up all the time due to personality reasons and things not going well, and people disliking each other or having fights or things like that. And he's like, they're hard to keep together. They're hard to function well. But man, when a good band comes together, like, it shows.
He finds a party, finds a good thing.
So I don't know. I do think there is something
Wow.
there where it's like, yeah, it's kind of like finding a band in both your characters and your players.
Yeah. I disagree that that's your opinion, but no.
Okay. Glad we're all on the same page about that.
No, I think I think the big thing is like a lot of this does actually have to do with the story that you want to tell and the stakes that you want to introduce early on. That if you start really low stakes, it's a lot easier to do hey, we all just met. If you want to do, hey guys, the world is ending, and if we don't stop the Dark Lord, then everything is horrible for all eternity. Maybe you should have known each other for more than a couple of hours before you all decide to set off on this quest.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a pretty big part in that dynamic. So
Yeah.
Or even just, it's funny that you bring that up. Even just some of you have known each other more than a couple of hours, because The Lord of the Rings, like, Frodo's known Gimli and Legolas for a couple of hours, but Aragorn has known Legolas for a very long time.
Right.
Like Gandalf has known all of them for a very long time. So it's like, oh well, my friend of a friend is here with us. Like,
yeah.
Just having some sort of connection.
Yeah. All right. I have a short maybe question.
Fair enough.
And then I would like to talk a little bit about some things that we're hoping to try out in season 2. But first and foremost, do you guys think that your villains, your BBEGs, should be redeemable or defeatable in a way outside of combat? Or is it always a good idea to just be like, and this is the Dark Lord that must be destroyed? Is that what are your thoughts on that?
Immediately, it depends on my party.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do feel like I almost want to ask this in the same way Josiah asked, of like, what's your preference? Because it's like, it depends on the story I'm telling. There are stories where it's like, nope, you're not going to unseat the bad guy by being emotional and providing for his emotional needs, or her emotional needs. No, they're going to do their thing. They're pretty entrenched in this. There is no coming back. But then there definitely are bad guys that you run, and it's like, no, like, if you're willing to take the time and effort this doesn't have to be a one-way thing. I don't, if you're asking, do you need to provide that for every bad guy? I would say no. I think there are plenty of good times for
Yeah.
it to just be bad. No, it's a demon lord. There is no redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
You fight him or you die. Like versus, hey, there's this bandit leader and they had a really hard past and they're wrestling with it and they're trying to do right by their own people, but it's not doing right by the people around them. And there's certain parts of them that are honorable. And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe this character can be redeemed. Maybe this could even become an NPC that we are friends with at some point in the future. Totally. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. This question came from a session of D&D that I played literally yesterday, in which one of my players met pretty much the main antagonist and immediately tried to murder them. And another player was like, so there's like no chance of redeeming them? And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. You haven't really met this character yet. You don't know a lot about them, but it was very interesting that they were immediately like, so this is not even an option. And I was like, I didn't say that. That like this character very much has reason to go and attack this person. They've done some bad things to them specifically. So it was not like a bad character moment of like, oh no, you shouldn't do this. Like this, you should be talking with them. It's like, no, like this guy has killed all of your friends, but it was just a question that kind of came to me, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So
and-
that actually is the exact direction that I figured we were going, and that's why I said it depends on my party, and I don't even mean my party as far as my characters. I mean my players, and I think part of the reason that I say that is because, for me, it's so much less about the villain and more about I'm providing an experience, and a story for my players, and my players are co-writers in this story, and so when I have co-writers, it's not very fun to just big no stamp on what they're trying to do. I really try not to as much as possible. And again, anyways, you know what I'm gonna caveat about me DMing. I really try as much as possible to not punish my players for trying to be creative or for the things that they're doing. I might punish a character who is built to never try to do combat and always try to talk their way out of it. Yeah, okay. You built that character is designed in this way. They need to learn that not everybody is redeemable. The player who is playing them, if they are trying to talk to this villain and they're trying to find a creative way out, I'm gonna try not to punish them. It might not be an option for them to completely talk their way out of this scenario, but I'm gonna try really hard not to punish them for it. I might give them a no, but what I mean? Like it's like a no, that doesn't work. But you've stalled long enough that that something else happens in the environment.
I'm still going to kill all of you, but because of what you've said, I'll kill you last. And it's like, hey, you're not built for combat. You're not going to get absolutely slaughtered by this guy. But eventually, like, if you don't fight him, he will kill all of you.
Right.
That
And
kind of
and it's
concept.
possible as well that getting into combat isn't a punishing thing for them. Like you
Yeah.
have to know your party
Sure.
too. Like saying, no, it doesn't work. Here comes the bad guy. Some of your players might be like, yeah, let's go roll for initiative. Woo! Like it's just, that's not always a bad thing. So
Totally.
I think it does just vary. I think people are redeemable.
Yeah.
I think people are redeemable only in specific circumstances. And so
and
I don't
fantasy
know.
redeemable is very different from like person to person redeemable, and blurring the lines between fiction and reality there can be a dangerous thing. But yeah, I do yeah, I was just curious to get your thoughts. I don't know if this villain is redeemable or not. I had definitely not. I was like, surely they're just like such a chaos party that they're gonna just jump right in and go
Yep.
off. But no, they immediately it was so we like can't save him, and I was like, no, I hadn't thought about that before. So
Yeah.
all
That's fair.
right,
Okay.
well,
So, what can we expect from next season? What are the things that we are excited to talk about, that we want to touch on, that we are looking forward to in season 2?
yeah. So the caveat that I would like to throw out first is that we have talked
Oh.
amongst ourselves about a lot of these things, and this is the things that we want to do. We're not 100% sure that all of these will come to fruition in season 2, but we're working on some of these. I've laid some of the groundwork out already on this, but we are really hoping to, first of all, have me, Jack, and Josiah, and some other voices on our podcast.
Yeah. Woo.
Talking with beginners and talking about D&D for beginners and the first time you're playing and how that varies, how that differs. That is one big thing that I'm super looking forward to. I know that we have talked about that, and we are excited to get that rolling here soon. Jack, what's another thing that you are excited about in the potential of season 2?
That was the thing. Why are
Oh,
you
okay.
throwing-
No.
That's the one.
That was the
okay.
big thing. I was like, oh yeah, this is the
I
idea.
thought
was really
you were going to
excited
talk about systems because you had mentioned this as well.
Okay. Yeah. I do think we are going to try and talk about some other systems, TTRPG systems, and just talk about like system building and what it looks like a little bit. I just really enjoyed that stuff recently. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Ooh.
I'm excited to talk about AI. It's gonna happen. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna get canceled. It's gonna be great.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. That is going to be a fun conversation. I think there's a lot of other things too. We let's go through some more, because
We are. I do promise that we are going to continue doing episodes like this. We will continue to do
2 hour long.
Improvised about the table.
Oh.
Not 2 hours long.
I am falling asleep here, guys.
Jack
I hope you guys aren't.
Jack
Sorry.
is losing.
Listeners, I hope you have enjoyed this.
Jack, this episode is going to get our highest engagement
It's gonna be
by
so
like
fun.
10 times, and you're going to be forced to do 2 hour long episodes every time.
I don't think that that's gonna happen.
But it could. It could
could.
happen.
No, I will say, like, we have talked a lot. We are really excited about this. But
Yeah.
we also, like I said, we all work full time. Josiah has no extra time to give, not even for 5 minutes
Working.
of
I'm working
reading
time and a
day.
half, baby.
So it is just really important for us to get a break, because just like anyone else, we don't want to burn out on this. We don't
We're
want to.
genuinely just going to be out of town a lot too. Like that's
This also is true.
part of it's necessity.
So
But-
just taking a little hiatus. We thank you so much for listening to this episode and throughout the entire season. This is a small project for us, but we love it. We hope
do.
that you guys have enjoyed. As always, we do not claim to have all the answers on everything D&D, but this is some of the stuff that we love to implement into our TTRPGs. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next season on October 3rd, Friday at 2
Mean Girls
p.m.
Day.
Mean Girls Day. Stop trying to
man.
make fetch happen, Josiah. It's not going to
I'm
happen.
not. All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.